Hey, this is Chris Caray, one of the broadcasters for the Oakland A's, and you're listening to Jim on Base.
Welcome back to another episode of the Jim on Base show here at the Oakland Coliseum with the great Chris Caray. And Chris, thanks for coming on the show. It's good to see you.
Man, I'm excited. I've seen a lot of your stuff, and I never thought I would be in the position to be able to do this. So thank you for allowing me to come on.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you on, and thanks for the kind words there. And it's good to see you out here. I'm always curious, like, what's your pregame routine? We're here before the Mariners game, and sometimes I see the broadcasters in the clubhouse, on the field. So what's kind of your routine before a game?
I think you got to get a little bit of everything, right? I mean, the first thing that I do before the game is really you prep for the game. Some people prep for the game here at the game. I do it before, have everything ready, so all I have to do is write in the lineups and a little bit of information about each player, and that's it. Right when the clubhouse opens, I'm usually there. I spend 5 to 10 minutes there. I don't want to bother the players. Usually in a time like this where everything is working really well, you don't have to ask them very much, so I don't want to be in the way. And then once that ends, you go on the field, you hear the manager speak. Sometimes you can walk around the concourse. On Fridays, sometimes I'll go to the treehouse and do bingo, and it's really, really fun here. It's been a really nice transition. Then obviously, you know, at around 5:30, 6 o'clock, then you really start preparing for the game, do the open, look over all the graphics, and then we go.
Well, it's got to be cool, too, because are you 24, 25? Like, you're a similar age as a lot of the players. That's got to be kind of good camaraderie.
Yeah, it's been really cool. Yeah, I'm 24, about to be 25. A lot of these guys are around that same age group, and being around a really young team is nice, and especially being in the minor leagues for the last 2 years, seeing these guys with some opposing teams, like, we have familiarity with each other, and now we're kind of working towards the same goal in different ways, right? They're working to try and get a World Series championship and have the A's win a World Series, you know, in the next few years, and I'm trying to be able to stay here and broadcast and cover this team as long as I can.
Well, before we got here, where did you grow up? And it's got to be kind of cool, too, right? You're following, I know your dad calls it like the family business, right? So you came out and made your own name in California, right?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's hard to say make your own name when you're, you know, kind of standing on the shoulders of the three, you know, generations before you. But my identical twin brother and I, Stefan, we were in Amarillo the last 2 years, and you know, we both auditioned for this job, or I auditioned for the job, he interviewed for the job, and I got the job, and he was one of the finalists. So it very well could have gone the other way, excuse me. And, you know, I appreciate the kind words. I still feel like I'm making a name for myself out here, but the people of Oakland and the A's fan base have been really kind and receptive towards what I'm trying to create and build in my career, and hopefully that still continues to resonate with them for years to come.
Well, that's great stuff there, and makes me wonder, too, when you were younger, who were your favorite teams, maybe some favorite players that pop out when you were growing up?
Ooh, oh, man. Well, with my dad working for the Braves most of my childhood and starting really into my young adulthood, they're kind of the team that I grew up following. So them, you know, a lot of Braves players, Jeff Francoeur, Chipper Jones. Funny enough, I always tell people about my first Mark Kotsay story, our manager. He got traded to the Braves in 2008, and for some reason I was enamored with how he played the game. And I was young, I was 8 or 9 years old, and I got a custom jersey with his number 11. It was a Braves navy blue, and my dad sees him in an elevator in Philadelphia or New York and says, "Hey, my son's a big fan of yours. In fact, he got your jersey." And Kotsay said, "Why?" So he's just been so great, and you know, there's so many great players. Usually I like to see the guys that do a little bit of everything. I think my favorite player of all time, because I got to work with him and get to know him as a person, is Corbin Carroll. I think he's a complete five-tool guy, and he's an even better person off the field, and getting to see his maturity and growth in Double-A, and now, you know, Rookie of the Year, and starting to lead a Diamondbacks team that will be a perennial playoff club for the next few years because of him and everything that they've built, is something really special to me.
That's a great name. I got to interview him in spring training, so he's a friend of the show.
Yeah, I know. He's excellent, and he's made some tremendous strides doing interviews and stuff. I remember my brother and I were in San Antonio with him, and we were doing a radio interview, not even on camera, and he's shaking a little bit, and you know, just to see in a year's time last year when he was mic'd up for the All-Star game, and he was so comfortable, so confident, and I think that, he's just going to continue to get better and better somehow, some way, because this guy's like an alien. I don't know how he gets better, but somehow he does.
Well, it makes me think, too, when growing up around the game, are you still going to some stadiums for the first time, or have you been to all of them yet? Or
I have not been to all of the stadiums. It's a very, very good question. I've been to about 12 or 13 of them. Obviously frequented the Braves a lot, Wrigley Field a lot, been to St. Louis, here. I'm still checking quite a few off of my bucket list. That will hopefully come in the next couple of years, considering I do most of my games here at the Coliseum. But this has been a very surprising place for me. The energy, the environment, the fans, everything is really exciting here. And they've been really welcoming to me. And this is a massive, massive place. And when you look down on this field and you see what our grounds crew is able to do, we have the best playing surface in baseball, and everybody says it. So being able to take that in and call these games the Coliseum with so much history is a truly amazing blessing.
Well, away from baseball for a second, what do you like to do away from the field? Like, what are your interests, hobbies?
Oh, man. I like hanging out with my friends. I'd like to say I work out. I need to work out a little bit more during the off season. I have a twin brother, so he and I do most everything together, including broadcasting. I do this a lot, and I don't want to make it my life, but it does take a large portion of your life, especially when you're young and ambitious and trying to just check every box. I really like writing, journaling. I think that's really important. It keeps me grounded. It allows me to gather my thoughts and really think about times of the past and how I went through certain situations and how I got to this point. Spending time with my grandparents in my hometown and my uncle and all my friends there. I'll never leave there if I get the choice. So, I live a pretty low-key life when the season's over, but maybe that'll start getting a little more exciting.
Well, I'm also curious when I have people on, what kind of music are you into, and who was your first concert?
Ooh, I've only been to one concert. I'm not a concert goer. I like all different genres of music. I like a lot of EDM. I do like rap. Lawrence Butler and I share an affinity for Atlanta rap. Like Future and Gunna and Playboi Carti and all that stuff. My brother would kill me if I didn't say Lil Uzi, but he's not Atlanta, he's Philadelphia. Right now, funny enough, I'm on that pop punk kind of metal type of stuff going on, and it gets me excited, energized for the game, even though I don't look like I would listen to that ever if you saw me walking down the street. The only genre that I don't like is country. I just am not a country music fan, and growing up in Florida, you would think, why not? Just never spoke to me.
Well, speaking of your family a little bit, I was wondering, growing up, since Harry Caray, your great-grandpa, he's such a legend, did people not believe you, maybe kids growing up, that was your great-grandpa? Or?
I don't think they necessarily understood, and I think it took us a while to understand really the situation, because living in Florida, your dad working in Atlanta, or Chicago, or now St. Louis, there's that geographic disconnect, right? Because when you're in Florida, I grew up with people that didn't know, didn't care, and I think that was a very humbling experience, right? If I had grown up in Atlanta or Chicago or whatever, maybe I would have gotten a bigger head. So I'm so glad everything has worked out the way that it does, because at the end of the day, this is just a job, right? It's a job that's a little glamorous. You're in front of a camera. You have a great lifestyle, but I'm just one little tiny spoke on a wheel that really creates success. It's our producers, our cameramen, everything. And for people to be able to understand that and respect the legacy, that's like icing on the cake, but I don't hold it against them if they don't.
Well, it's kind of full circle to talk to you, because I imagine, do you know Tom Dreesen then? Chicago legend, big comedian. He had some great stories. I had him on the show. He had some great stories with your great-grandpa and Frank Sinatra together. So
I've heard a few of those. I don't know Tom, but it's funny. I'd never met Harry, so every story that I hear about him, it's like fragments and shards of completing the full story, right? Because you never got to interact with him in person. I didn't know my grandfather very well, so when everybody says fourth generation to me and my brother and eventually my little brother, because he'll want to get involved in the business, is just a whole thing. We're just not very good at anything else. I look at myself more as a second generation than anything, because of my connection to my father. And to be able to have 4 generations in this business is amazing. And obviously nepotism is a real thing. I am the living proof and embodiment of that. I don't mince words about that. I know it's the case. But I'd like to believe that I have proven the naysayers wrong and at least shown that I can do this at this level.
Well, you've spoken about your brother, your twin brother. My good buddies are twins, so I'm curious, who's the older of the two?
I'm older than he is by 17 minutes, so my mom had to wait a little longer for Stefan to pop out. But yeah, no, being a twin is amazing. I mean, he is my rock. He's my everything. He's somebody that I deeply appreciate, and he's the reason why I'm here. When we went to Amarillo, he took a chance to come with me because he knew it was my dream. He wasn't certain that it was his dream, and then within a year, he had surpassed me in talent. He surpasses me in workout, possibly work ethic. He's funnier. I mean, he's just the better version of me, and I'm not even being hyperbolic. I'm not understating or overstating that. He's the best, and that connection with him is amazing, and hopefully one day we'll get to share a booth again in the big leagues. But then at that point, I'll know that my shine is over because he will outshine me very, very quickly.
Well, speaking of your dad, you guys had a cool moment back in April when the Cardinals came to town. That must have been pretty surreal.
Oh, it was insane. I mean, you never really expect that will actually happen the way that you thought it would. Obviously, I thought Steph would be involved in some capacity, or we would all three kind of recreate that 1991 photo at Wrigley where Harry, Skip, and my dad all shared a booth and we're all on the field together, and it was, about them. But my 4th career big league game, my dad shows up to the Coliseum, a place that was brand new to me, a place that he's been just a few times, not quite a few, and to be able to share that and see that on the field and look at him and know how proud I am of him, or taking that leap of faith with the Cardinals, who have been so wonderful to him and probably the best organization that he's worked for, and me, being a happy little bean in Oakland and being able to share that moment together is something I will never forget.
Well, did he give you any advice or tips for the season, or is he kind of just letting you do your own thing?
He likes to lay low. I think the most important thing that he says is, the most important tip that I can have is expert bladder control, right? When you have a 9-inning game and you're on TV, the breaks are very quick, right? So I have to be able to control that and not miss a beat. I'm being facetious, but he never wanted to get in the way of our careers. He said nobody needs another Chip Caray. They want to see the genuine Chris Caray, the genuine Stefan Caray, and that's what I've tried to create, while also taking a little bit from his style or Skip's style or some of my other favorite broadcasters as well.
Well, it's got to be cool, too, because you're 24 and breaking in this year, and he was the same age, right, when he broke into the big leagues? So it's pretty neat.
Yeah, he was 24 and in the NBA, so it was so funny. He always talks about that because I grew up in Orlando for 16 years, and now we live in St. Augustine, Florida, where I claim is my hometown because it's just the best place ever. But he hadn't done very much basketball, and he kind of sort of tricked them into thinking that he could do it, and then it was fight or flight, and he had to be able to spread his wings, and he was able to float instead of sink, and then obviously he always wanted his career to be in baseball. So I got in at 24 on the TV side, and I'm still pinching myself every single day and thanking NBC and the A's for the opportunity.
Well, who was your favorite broadcasters growing up?
Oh, I mean, other than my father, Dwayne Statz in Tampa Bay, being in Florida and being able to turn on that TV, that powerful voice, the baseball, voice of summer. He was and is incredibly excellent. I really like some of the young guys now. I think Joe Buck, I still consider him a young guy in this industry, but he's incredible. I know he represents a lot of the same values that I do, and he is very self-aware, which I try to be, which our whole family tries to be. Some younger guys like Aaron Goldsmith in town is remarkably talented, and being able to see those guys and watch their metamorphosis has inspired me to be able to take those leaps of faith like they have, and they've really set forth a path for other younger guys to be able to break in and do some big things pretty much from the jump, and I want to be able to do that too for somebody else.
Well, you mentioned Joe Buck. I was going to ask if you're close because I've been lucky enough to have him on the show, and he was awesome, and he's hilarious too.
He is so funny. I listen to him on a lot of podcasts, and it's like a totally different person because he's all buttoned up on ESPN and ready to go, and he has fun with Troy. Their chemistry is astounding, and I don't. My father has a good relationship with him. My brother actually has had a few conversations with him recently, and Joe seems to take a liking to his work, so I hope he likes mine. But no surprises there. I hope to meet him one day and hope to thank him for everything that he has done for our family and the friendship that he has fostered with my father, because I think that those are very, very important, is to be able to make great friends and carry that on throughout time.
Well, you mentioned Joe Buck and your dad doing basketball. We have Dave Fleming here in the Bay Area. So would you ever want to venture out and do other sports, or are you just kind of focused on baseball right now? Or
Man, I consider myself a one-trick pony, and I don't even know if I have that all figured out in the baseball world. I've become more open to it as time has gone on. I think when you start to consider all the people in baseball that are working in football, football is king. That would be something that I would be interested in. My brother was always interested in doing everything. I'm a big soccer fan, so that would be like a little passion project. I would never expect anybody to throw me into a professional soccer game and expect me to do it at a high level, but those would be my interests if I did football, maybe a little soccer. But honestly, I would be totally happy for the rest of my career doing baseball, and hopefully baseball at the highest level.
Well, I am curious when it comes to broadcasting. I imagine there's a fear if you don't want to get sick, you don't want to get a cold. So is there any hacks or pro tips, getting through that so it doesn't affect the voice?
I've been pretty lucky to be healthy, knock on wood.
I don't want to jinx it.
But I think just eating the right way. I actually eat one meal a day. I probably am not the perfect model of health, but going out in the sunshine, I think socially, getting a social life, I've only started to develop much of one these last few weeks, funny enough, just as I'm leaving this season, and I think that's been incredibly beneficial. It makes you happier, the endorphins are through the roof, and it allows you to put out a better product and storytell a little bit better. So for all those young broadcasters, I would say, if you have a sore throat, power through it, but you don't have to worry about it. It's just one game. And I know my dad earlier in the season sounded like he was on his deathbed when he was the first week or second week and they were playing San Diego. It sounded like a totally different person. So I don't know if his routine is working out too well, but hopefully mine will get a little better and we won't have to hear that noise ever again.
Exactly. Well, as you know, I know you're a team guy, so what's it like being with the A's broadcast team? You do a lot of work with Dallas Braden, obviously. Johnny Dosco's here, Jenny Cavnar. So many great players in the broadcast team.
Well, we'll start with the broadcast team. We have one of the nicest, kindest broadcast teams in all of professional sports. And there's so much talent to boot, starting with Ken Korak, who is kind of the patriarch of everything. He should be in the Hall of Fame. Hopefully he will be in the Hall of Fame because he's also a Hall of Fame person. Vince Cotroneo is incredibly talented. The word I would use for him is consistent and prepared. Johnny is a jack of all trades. He's funny. He's a good actor to the point where you can't believe if he's serious or not. He's a very talented broadcaster that got his shot probably many years too late. 30 years in the minors, and he probably should have broke in decades earlier, and I think everybody's happy about that decision. Jenny, a pioneer, trailblazing for women, doing everything that she's done, an Emmy Award winner, multi-time Emmy Award winner, and then you can't forget Dallas Braden. Dallas is... He's meant so much to me because this is not an easy job to do. This is not an easy message to send out, and it's not easy to juggle between two different play-by-play people. Usually it goes the other way around where the play-by-play guy has multiple analysts to work with, and he has done it so well. He's been so poised and confident, as he does with everything in his life. And he's so devoted to his craft, and I think that's so important. And I forgot to mention two other people, Jess Kleinschmidt, who's great, another jack of all trades, and Chris Townsend, who I'm incredibly close with, our pre- and post-game host, which I believe, after hearing every single pre- and post show, we have a lot of talent with our pre- and post across the league, TV and radio. That man is the best. He's the best of them all. Talk radio. If you haven't listened to A's Cast, you need to tune in. It's going to go global. It already is global, and it's a great concept, and it's just as entertaining as the product that we try to put on in-game coverage.
Well, speaking of your first year here with the A's, were you nervous to start the year, or what kind of went through your mind in preparing to come here?
I think there's that. How do you describe it? Sometimes you feel like you're so lucky and you don't belong, but everybody tries to affirm you and make you feel like you belong, and then you just have to go out there and belong, right? So it was never really nervousness. I think the first game there were a few jitters. Doing an on-camera open for the first time was a little daunting, but once you get in the game flow, it's the same exact game. There's just a little more elements, and actually, truly, you get a little bit more help with your producer, your director, all of your graphics people. It elevates everything that you're trying to do and steers you in a direction to call the game the way that really this team wants to call it. Obviously, as the play-by-play guy, you steer it, but there is always a general message, and there's always elements that really elevate the game, which I've loved about television. It's always what I've wanted to do.
Yeah, I respect you going in this profession too, because I do the same thing that my dad did. So I know there's added pressures, added stereotypes, so it's a lot to juggle in your mind, and it takes a lot of guts to go that path,
Right. Well, first off, I want to say thank you for what you do for our community and in general. It's a very selfless job as a firefighter, and truly what you guys are doing, following in your dad's footsteps. I hope you don't receive any flack whatsoever, because the job that I do, I'd like to believe is 100% based on merit, but obviously because of my name, I've had a few advantages. And for you, very honorable doing what you do, and now entering the media space and doing a great job. I think the sky's the limit for you, and obviously for somebody that's done so much for the community, it's time for us to kind of give back and embrace what you're doing.
Well, awesome. Yeah, thanks for that. And just a couple more questions here. In terms of this season, is there anything that you're kind of crafting or honing, working on in the broadcasting space? Or
It's funny you ask that, because I've been lucky enough to have 3 or 4 walk-off calls, and I think 3 out of 4 have gone pretty well. Whether it was my first ever game, the Lawrence Butler walk-off single that scored Schumann to beat the Nationals, or it was J.J. Bleday's first pitch, 9th inning homer to win 2-1 against the Blue Jays, or even yesterday where Shea Langoliers, I wasn't very good at that in the minors, so much so that my brother said, you got to get better at that, because those are going to be the moments that count. And we were always told, make the moment bigger, because that's what everybody wants to see. That's the most interacted with stuff. The home run calls, the big plays. How does a broadcaster elevate a play that is already so great? How do they rise to the occasion and bring the moment to the fans that aren't here in the stadium? And that's what I've tried to do, and it's still a work in progress, but I take after my dad in that regard.
We have such great calls, so it made me wonder. I think John Miller, he's been on the show, and he mentioned how kind of lives in the moment, doesn't really think of what I'm going to say in like a big moment. Is that how you are? Do you prepare anything, or do you just live in the moment?
I'd like to say I live in the moment fully. I'd say it's probably 90% in the moment and 10% planning. Especially when you're young, you don't want to mess up, right? So when you think about those big plays and say, hey, it's better to get this call and nail this call if I think about it. I never write anything down, though. It's always in my head, and I'm always trying to think of, hey, how can I use a guy's name and use it in a way that has some alliteration or some rhyming or some fun? How can I do something and say something that nobody has ever said in the game? Or how can I innovate? How can I elevate what I'm doing? So, yeah, I think about it a little bit, especially when I'm at home. And the question that I always ask myself is, how would I want to hear it? And typically I'm kind of in between the old ways of baseball. I like the old game. I like ABC baseball. I like traditional broadcasting. And then the new age, where we've got social media and new lingo, new jargon, and people want to see somebody that's able to present that in a succinct and excited manner. I think that's a lot of fun, and that's what I've tried to do most of my career, and I think that's a big reason why I'm here at this level now, is because they wanted me to bring the action, and I would hope that I've done that so far.
Well, don't worry, we're gonna do a TikTok dance together, so that's gonna go viral, okay?
Oh no, that is bad. Well, I'll do anything for you, man. Like no doubt, but just heads up, you might want to turn that off if it happens.
Well, that's some fun stuff, and we had a great conversation. My last question for you then is, you've had such a great year here. Is there anything that stands out in terms of what's the most surreal thing, or just something that just sticks with you in the year so far? Might be a tough question.
There's a lot. I've always heard from different scouts and other organizations that the Oakland A's, just top to bottom, are a really, really fun team to watch. And the field staff is great. And, everybody has been so kind, whether it's been the ushers or the people in the front office or the players in the field or the managers and coaches. they had no reason to welcome me in as nicely as they have. I felt like I had to earn it, but from day one, they made me feel like a member of this team, and I think that allowed me to feel comfortable. Another thing is how great our team is. Our broadcast team, I'm really good friends with Johnny Dosco, Chris Townsend, and Dallas and I are developing a great relationship. So I couldn't be more pleased with how this season has gone for me in terms of everybody else. And I'm so grateful and thankful that I'm in this position now.
Well, Chris, thanks for coming on the show. It was a lot of fun to get to know you.
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to seeing you as the years go by.
Thank you, buddy. I appreciate it, Ryan. And good luck to you, man. This is blowing up. This is awesome.